Right, it's January, we were promised a review, so let's do a review of Celtic's December statement. Right, back in early December when Celtic were under so much pressure to sack Neil Lennon following a string of bad results. I'm talking Ross County, Sparta Prague, the second one by the way, St Johnstone at home, that kind of thing. They put out a statement backing Neil Lennon, saying there would be a review in January. Let's have a look at it, let's see how it has aged, and let's be honest, it's not aged too well. It read, in light of the ongoing speculation regarding the position of our football manager, Neil Lennon, the board of Celtic Football Club wishes to make clear its continuing support for Neil and his backroom team. The board recognises and understands the importance of winning the league championship this season, no laughing at the back, and that, as Neil himself has made clear, recent performances and results have been disappointing. The board is committed to delivering success for Celtic supporters. Now just look out the Pinocchio emoji for the wee last bit. There we go. The board has carefully considered the current circumstances and the challenges that we are faced with, not least the pressure on the management and players to deliver the 10th championship in a row that is so important to us all. Equally important is to continue to operate according to our club's values. That sounds a bit like business jargon. The board has come to the conclusion that our collective objective is best served by continuing to support Neil and his team as they seek solutions for those challenges. Whilst it has been suggested that it is time for a change, at this stage in the season the board believes that Neil and his management team are best placed to turn the team's performances around and lead us on to success. The board continues to work closely with Neil and his team to support them as they seek to do so, and progress will be reviewed in the new year. Whilst there may not always be agreement, there is certainly a common goal, the success of Celtic Football Club, and we will continue to work together to seek to achieve that success. P.S. We'll send you all a postcard from Dubai. Okay, I added the last wee bit there, but the rest of that statement is genuinely what Celtic sent out a few weeks ago. Now, the club mentions the common goal of Celtic's success. To be honest, looking at last night and the last few months, I don't see much evidence of that. But they seem so keen to lump us all together, to lump the supporters in with the board and the club as all wanting the same thing, when it is so clear that that hasn't been the case this season. There has never been such a divide between the club's supporters and the board. They were at it in yesterday's statement as well, when they referred to being hugely disappointed, as we know our supporters will be. Again, trying to put us all together into the same boat, as if all the supporters were absolutely delighted when the news came out that we were off to Dubai, or the players certainly were off to Dubai. We all thought it was a great idea. We all thought that nothing bad would come of it, and we're all absolutely shocked that COVID has managed to get one of our players and 13 other players are self-isolating as a result. Do not dare put us into the same bracket as you after the way you have behaved this season. It is an absolutely disgraceful thing to do. And it's just symptomatic of what's going on at the club. There's a feeling and a denial there. There's no accountability. There's no admission from the club that they have done anything wrong this season. Now on to the New Year review. Since Celtic posted that statement that I just went through, we've dropped a further 8 points behind our rivals. There is no common goal this season. There is no success this season. There is no point in Neil Lennon still being our manager when he comes back from self-isolation. Now, you might think it's a given, and it probably is, that he will return and manage the team after these 2 games against Livingston. But let me ask you, what is the point? You know, the horse is bolted here a long time ago. The league is over. Our season is over. Why would Neil Lennon even come back and manage his team? What is there to be gained from that? I mean, it's all over. We have to look to the future now. It's the only thing that's going to keep the club supporters sane. It gives us something to look forward to imagine days when we aren't having positive COVID tests that are self-inflicted from the club in terms of going to Dubai. To imagine days when we aren't drawn 1-1 with Hibs in our most pivotal season in decades, with Dembele and Armstrong Okoflex and Cameron Harper playing for the team in a must-win game, to imagine better days when we have a manager who doesn't make us tear out our hair every single time he opens his mouth in a press conference. That is what we've got to look forward to. Celtic have to look to the future, and the only way they can do that is by carrying out this review that they have promised. And it's not just me who's saying that, it's not just the rest of the Celtic support. Today on Twitter, I thought it was really interesting that you had the club's supporters liaison officer, John Paul Taylor, who I would say in general is really impartial. He's the link between the club and the support, so it's a really difficult job for him, and I think he does it really well. But in general, he very rarely offers an opinion from a fan's point of view, because he probably realises who his employers are. But today I thought it was really interesting to look at this tweet as he replied to a fan who was asking about this internal review that we were promised in the new year. He replied saying, "I think they have to carry out a review. There was a commitment to do so at the end of November, so it should be followed up." But have we already had it? Well, there was a report coming out from the Scottish Sun, I think last week, reporting that Dermot Desmond was to give the backing to Neil Lennon for the rest of the season. So is that the review we've been promised? I mean, surely Celtic would post it on their own channels. They love a statement quite often. So as much as they also like to go through the likes of the Scottish Sun and the Daily Record, who are really reliable with that kind of thing, the Daily Mail too, surely that's not the review. Surely we're going to get something from the club. But is it just going to say that they're sticking with Neil Lennon? I think we will get a statement in the next week. I think that will come because fans are just wanting to see it, and that has worked in the past. And as fans continue to put pressure on the club, I think the club will be forced to put out a statement, but that statement isn't going to tell us what we want to hear. It's going to say, in my opinion, that the club will back Neil Lennon for the immediate future. Neil Lennon is dealing in unprecedented times during a pandemic. He's had numerous COVID cases to deal with. He's had other extenuating circumstances like Dubai, even though that was self-inflicted. And I think they will say that Neil Lennon is the right man to take us forward. They will use their usual jargon about the fact he's been a brilliant player and captain and manager, admittedly, over the last 20 years or so. He knows the club, he knows the city. All that kind of stuff will be brought out again in this statement, and it just won't wash with fans. Here's a warning for you, Celtic fans. The club are going to ramp up this COVID killed our season propaganda over the next few months. They will use it as the excuse for why this season has gone to pot. There is nothing more certain than that. And we as supporters cannot take that. We have to keep challenging the club. We have to keep telling them that it is they who have cost us this season. It is their mismanagement at every single level at the club, from Dermot Desmond and Peter Law to the PR department, to Neil Lennon, to the players as well. They're not getting off scot-free after this disastrous season. We cannot let them blame COVID and try to appease us ahead of buying season tickets for next year. It can't be allowed to happen. This has to be the breaking point for the board. They cannot get away with some of the stuff that has gone on this season, whether it be blaming COVID, the government, the SFA, anyone else that wants any blame. They just can't be allowed to do it. They need to look to the future. They need to take some responsibility. They need to set a clear plan for the future, and they need to be transparent with the supporters and let them know what that plan is. Whether it's getting in a new manager, which absolutely has to happen, whether it's restructuring the recruitment department at the club, whether it's setting a clear plan for European performance in the future, getting back to the Champions League, or at the very least improving our performance from this season's Europa League campaign. There quite simply has to be an idea from the club. We can no longer just stumble from disaster to disaster, go quiet on social media for a few days, then hit us with a happy birthday for Morton Weghorst and some training clips of the players running around poles at Lennoxtown. We need more from the club. And I'm getting quite animated doing this, but it's the frustration that's building inside me. We need to see that in this January review. That's what the real January review should be. It shouldn't just be some daft company jargon and backing of Neil Lennon stumbling on to our next disaster. But hey ho, I'm not holding my breath.